Let's have a look at how I made the starting point for this map. This is a height map, of course, and I've added roads here, which is based on curves from OSM or OpenStreetMaps. So here we have the road geometry itself, and we have the intersection. All of the data is from OSM and has been filtered through here in these various tools to create the roads and the intersections, and then lastly, this overview sort of, which will process the height map so it will flatten the terrain where the road goes. First of all, we need the data, and that's done through QGIS. Here in QGIS, I have set up an extent, so this is the playable area, and I have my orthophoto and DEM files already exported. Let's hide this just for a moment. So looking at the DEM file, we want to import or download data from OSM. If you haven't already got this icon here, you might have to install the plugin. The plugin is called, Quick OSM. Quick OSM needs to be installed. If you still can't see the icon up here, you can right-click this menu bar and find Quick OSM here and enable it. Next up, we need to download the data using this Quick OSM plugin. So what we need to do is search for highway. And you can filter things you want to keep here manually, but I'll just download all the data available to me, and then I can filter it in Houdini instead. So we need to make sure that we are downloading data within the layer extent of this boundary here, the white lines here. So I'm going to pick that as the layer extent and click Run Query. Now it's downloaded curves that fits within this area. You may have more or less, depends entirely on the data you have available to you. The dots here are bus stops. That could be interesting for a later time, but right now I just want to have the roads, so I'm going to hide those. Let's verify that it matches the orthophoto. Actually, let's just double click this layer and quickly just set the width to a bit wider so it's easier to see. You can see here that, yes, it matches the roads perfectly. Okay, that's verified and done. Let's export this highway to CSV. A CSV file is coordinates. So, so Houdini can get the same curves into the road system here. There's a couple of things to note. We need to set the format as CSV. We need to select somewhere to save it. I'll just overwrite my old one. And the CRS, the coordinate system, needs to be the same as the project, or else there will be a mismatch and things will not work in Houdini. We need to set the geometry type to line string just to force it, make sure it doesn't, there's no room for error. We also need to set the geometry down here in the layer options to WKT. I do not need to add the saved file to the map. I just want to export it as a file. Because I'm overwriting the old file, I get this box here. It asks me, do you want to overwrite the file or the layer or append to it? I just want to overwrite the file in this case. And that's it. Now we have exported the CSV data and can jump over to Houdini. Except if you haven't already converted the DEM file to PNG and got the height scale and the coordinates properly exported in our report, we need to do that next. Here I have a folder for the GeoTIFF to PNG script, and I have the orthophoto and the CSV curves. So I'm gonna convert the DEM file, just run the bat file here to load the script, click and drag the file, GeoTIFF file, remove the signs here, and press enter, and it will start converting to PNG. This data that's written out here is also stored in this text file. And what it contains is very important information, such as the centroid X and Y positions, the PNG resolution, and the ideal height scale to set in GE and in Houdini. Next up, I'll convert the orthophoto as well. Just takes a little second. And there we go. Now we have the PNG files for the ortho and the dem file. Over in Houdini, we'll remove all of this. And this, and this. Let's start fresh. So what you need is a geonode, a geometry node. In here, we will, let's name it curves. In here, we will add one tool. That's when you right click or press tab, you can find the CSV to curves node. If you don't already have it, you can download it on Discord or on Patreon. Inside here, we will, oh, it's a bit shallow. Let's see, we need to load the CSV file. And we want to import the file I just exported from QGIS. Let's fill attribute info from header. If you get an error over here, I forgot to mention that. In QGIS, when you export, it is crucial that, first of all, the coordinate system is correct, set to project, but also that the export name here does not contain a colon or a semicolon. It needs to be A to Z or dashes or underscores like that, or else things will fail and break in Houdini. Okay, that's great. Let's input the centroid X and Y coordinates. And that should center the curves in the middle of your scene here. Great. Also notice that we see that we have these numbers on the curves. I forgot to disable this, but it's good I showed it. Because by default, the polypath feature is ticked on. And the reason is sometimes curves are not fused or merged. So you'd end up with broken segments like this. So this curve over here is broken into 3 or 4 segments. We don't need that. We need them to be one continuous path. So we can, better create the roads and adjust where the road starts and ends near an intersection. More on that very soon. Okay. We then need to blast. We need to isolate what curves to use. So I'm just going to name this blast node first. Let's call it road 01 and connect it to the CSV to curves node and see what it contains. Actually, it doesn't contain anything, and that's not so weird because we haven't set what it should keep. So press this arrow button here, and we can hover over the curves in the viewport. And I'll just start with this curve first. So click it, select it, press enter to commit. And it was deleted, but we want to keep it, right? So we need to delete non-selected. So we'll just invert what to keep and what to delete, or isolate, in other words. So let's do another road, and by holding Alt and click and drag the node, I can make a copy, and I'll select a different curve. And I'll continue to do this until I have the curves I need. And I'll make another couple of selections here. There we go. So let's have a look at all of these. You can preview them all by selecting the nodes and press W. Now we can see that this is the selection we have. I think I need to make another selection over here, just so I can get an intersection, a proper intersection over there. Great. Now I have all the rows I need. Let's head back to the root, to the object tab here, and hide it. Don't need to show these curves anymore. Next up, I want to make a height map source node. This will contain the height map. So let's load it and find the dem file, PNG. Let's also set the correct scale, 4096 in my case, and set the height scale. In my case, it was 918. We can also add the orthophoto. Click the texture to enable that and load the orthophoto. If you don't see the texture straight away, you might have to click this button here. Display materials on objects. And I actually see that the height map doesn't work either without that ticked. So make sure that's ticked. Great. And next up, let's start making some roads. So I need to go into Farming Simulator menu and find the road curve. It's a bad word. It should have just said road, but let's just stick with it. From here, I will, let's see, scroll up. Sorry, for some reason it wasn't at the top here. I will load the height map source, which is this one. Click and drag over here. So now we're sort of setting the ground rules, which we will use on more copies of the roads. Now it asks me for set user curve geo. And I'll just do that by clicking this arrow button right here. And I'll find the curves node and road 1, right? Accept. Let's hide the height map for a moment and see that we do indeed have the curve in here. That's great. From here, we can preview the height map if we like. You can see the curve resting on top of the road, or the height map, so you can see that everything checks out. And next up, we can check what it looks like with the road mesh on top. We have a long list of various things here to debug or see what's going on with the road. So default is the curve as it's imported. Next up, we have the curve with select slope. If you deselect the node, by the way, so it's not highlighted in yellow, we can see that there's some uneven slopes here. If we hide the height map for a moment, we can see that that's the selection. And here we have the smooth curve height. This will be used in the next preview mode, which is the curve processed. So we can see here. Actually, we can't see it because the max slope here is quite high. Let's disable this. So here we can select more if we want to smooth the curve more. I believe that was the default selection here, 100. So we can select whether we want to smooth the curve at all or not. And this is the final one without the highlight. So depending on how you set this threshold, it may or may not affect the curve, which is very helpful when you have curves that dip into the ground because it's a bridge or something, and the curve is snapping to the ground into the gorge or the dip where the river goes. Anyway, we can also smooth the curve. You can barely see it here, but let's type something crazy large. You can see it affecting here. You can also affect the maximum segment length, like the resolution of the final road mesh, actually. Default is 2. Next up, we can set the root folder for where Farming Sim is installed. This is helpful to load the textures and see a preview of the textures inside Houdini. You can also apply road markers and all that, but let's have a look at that after. Now, let's make it, let's check the road, and we will apply the road width we want. If the data you export from OSM or QGIS has data for the width, you can set that here. So that's pretty cool. It will automatically then set the width. All right, let's continue. Let's make a couple more of these road nodes. So Alt, left click and drag to make a copy. And I'll load the next road. So I can just click here instead of going to this list and so on. If you have many roads, you can just click here and scroll up, and it will load the next curve because it's in a continuous number here. And I see that instantly now that I have an intersection here, but it's just two curves. So I need to make two different road nodes for all of these four roads connecting. So let's just do that. I can adjust the ends, and let's see, that's the wrong side. Let's adjust this end until it's just barely touching. And if you need to be even more detailed in and fine tuning this, you can middle click and go down to fine tune really, really well. Yeah, you get very nice granular control over that. I'll also do the same on the other side. So I'll make a copy of that. I'll just go to 0 here and adjust the other end. Like so. And then I can do the same on the other curve. Adjust ends. Let's see if this is the right end. Actually, let's do it from the other side first. Like so. Make a copy and complete that line and adjust this other end. And that's how you prepare the roads with multiple intersections along the curve for specific intersections. I know there's another road up here, so let's have a look at that straight away. Let's find that one. Yep. So that means I need to change the end on this curve as well. There we go. And once again, let's make a copy of this. Let's fulfill that line and complete it here. So now we have prepared for multiple intersections over here. You can arrange all of these nodes as you please. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a system and you follow through with that system. Whatever makes it work for you. So the next step here is going to be me semi-automating stuff. Because manually, you would have to open this road intersection node. And then I would have to say, I have 4 incoming roads. And then I would have to click a node and say, okay, it's this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Okay, so I know that all of these 4 are going to be part of this intersection. And then I would have to apply them in a clockwise, let's see, in a clockwise order. So that's kind of tricky. Where's the next? That one. And that's kind of tedious, really. Yeah, that one last. That's kind of tedious. And then you would have to adjust which end to use of each curve. There's an easier way to do this, and I'll show you how. It requires you to create a button up here. I have already made mine, but you can right-click on this this bar or this shelf up here and say New Tool. From here, you can load an icon, which I have supplied, and you can input a script. Now, the script is this one. It will create an intersection with the selected roads. So you select all this text and paste it here. Just accept. You can give it a proper name. Actually, let's just do that. Give it a proper name. Create intersection. There we go. Create intersection. So what this will let you do is use this arrow over here, or press S when you hover over the viewport. And I can select them in a clockwise order and create this. Select this, create intersection. What it will do is create a node over here with the selected roads in that order you selected them, and apply them as roads into this intersection node. And now I can easily click on the road I want to edit the node for information for, including the intersection, because I'm already in this select node. Mode. And from here, what I can do is I can adjust the rounding here. Sorry, there we go. The distance and the resolution. So now I can adjust what it looks like so. And there we go. Now I have my first intersection. I can then continue, select this, this, and this, create intersection again. And I'll have to adjust where to start from. So the first one starts at the correct point, but the next and the last do not. So you need to adjust starting at the where the intersection will create the geometry from, the starting point or the end point. Like that. Nice. And so you can continue doing this over and over until you're done. Now, let's say I'd like to, oh, I see I messed up here. There we go. Let's say I'd like to load some textures over here. So I will have to make them ready for export. So I've selected all my roads here. I need to enable, find the FS25 root folder. So I'm going to do that. I already have a shortcut for that. So let's see. All my games here. There we go. And accept. So now I should be able to see the textures on this this road here. Now I have a custom road texture for the asphalt because the asphalt one is a bit special. It has two different asphalt types in one texture file. So I'll provide the one with a single texture as well. From here now, I can select gravel, dirt, or dirt gravel. That's the ones I've enabled at least. And these are actually loaded from the game. So for whatever reason, if Giants updates these textures, you'll also see them updated in Houdini. And last, we need to enable vertex colors. You need to have that in order for the proper i3D export later on. But you can disable them if you don't want to view them currently. Let's go back to asphalt. You could also apply road markings. You can go edge. And yeah, this is interesting. They do not currently follow the width of the road as it's set currently. That's my bad. I'll do my best to update that because I think they are supposed to follow the width of the OSM data, and I don't have any data for that currently. So that's something I need to figure out. But you can also select whether to have middle stripes or not. And these are just the textures I've applied. You can apply your own textures as you please. Of course, you can select whether to have. These are typical in Norway at least, and can be adjusted as well. You can also change how the white stripes are set up with long or short stripes, depending on your needs. All right. Anyway, when you're done, enable vertex colors. Next up, when you have all of this set up, is to, believe it or not, hide them. Because next up, we will apply the roads to the height map. So in the end, we need to get the height map process node. And we will load the height map source into this node. So click and drag the height map source into the height map process. So the height map is loaded. And like before, we need to apply the roads and the intersections. And this is quite tedious if you have a very big project. So I would have to manually add the roads here. You can see they are showing up, but this is very tedious. Same with the intersections. Let's see, scroll down and load the intersection, right? Let's just clear that. There's another script. So you can right click up here in the shelf again and add new script or add new tool. And this is the other script which I'll provide. Both of these were kindly provided by Megatron. So all thanks to him. This is a lot easier now. And this populate height map process script will take all the roads it finds here and all of the intersection it finds and apply that to the height map process node. Make sure that you do not rename any of these nodes, by the way, or else the scripts will have to be adjusted to accommodate for your settings. Anyway, if I click this populate height map process node, tool, it will automatically add these to that node, and everything just applies itself. There's one more thing we need to do before we can start to export stuff, and that's checking this adjust height map. So let's process the height map. What that does is it takes the road surface and flattens the terrain next to the road surface over here. How neat is that? Currently, it will only adjust the roadbed width depending on a slider value here. So if you have wider roads or narrower roads, currently there's just one setting fits all, sort of. That's something I'm working on to automate a little bit, so it will match more of the width of the actual road surface. Anyway, that's it. From here, you can go to the Export tab. You can set the resolution of the height map. You need to set that manually. Also need to set the height scale manually. You set a place where you want to save the map. It could be in your data folder and overwriting the original DEM file you have, and just click Save to Disk. The roads can be exported as an FBX. You can also export it as an i3D if you like, which I recommend if you want to keep the vertex colors. Exporting FBX is ideal if you want to work further in Blender or Maya or whatever you have. In order to make it work with the new Farming Sim 25 feature, terrain decal, you need to check this. Make sure it's checked. You don't have to apply any shaders. It just works out of the box. Receive shadows is good to have on. And yeah, you set a file name and a path, export i3D, and in the i3D, you will find a transform group called roads, and then you have the roads as items in there. I hope this helps. It's a long video, but yeah, I really hope it helps you out getting started with roads in Houdini.